Welcome to the Capstone Conversation, where you learn about what's happening in the greater East Bay. I am your host, Jared Ash. Today, we are going to talk about food security in the East Bay and feeding our communities here. Particularly, we're talking today to Haley Solares of the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano counties, and Jeanette Kennedy of Loaves and Fishes. Thank you, ladies. Haley, why don't you start and provide an introduction to yourself, but also to the food bank and its mission, and then we'll let Jeanette chime.
Thank you, Jared. As Jared mentioned, I'm Haley Solaris, and I'm with the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano. My role here is Advocacy and Policy Manager. What that means is looking at our social safety net programs and advocating for things such as CalFresh, which is SNAP here in California, food bank funding, and looking at that across state and federal levels, engaging with our elected officials to make sure they understand how crucial these programs are for our clients. Currently at the food bank, we're serving about 390,000 clients each month, and that's across both counties. And that's across our 260 different distribution sites. That number has definitely been going up since pre-COVID. Here at the food bank, we don't only just provide food, but like I mentioned, we have our advocacy that we work on for our clients, and we have CalFresh outreach. We assist our clients and our community with signing up for those CalFresh benefits.
Thanks. Jeanette?
Hi, good morning. I'm Jeanette Kennedy. I'm the Executive Director of Development and External Relations for Loaves and Fishes of Contra Costa. We provide a hot and nutritious meal to anyone in need. We don't have any questions or intake at the door. Everyone is welcome. We have 5 dining rooms in the county. We've got Walnut Creek, Martinez, Pittsburgh, Antioch, and Oakley. And we have a mobile resource center that it's delivers food to partners in East County and offers folks an opportunity to come to us or to go to a place where they're receiving other services to get a hot meal. We also have food pantries at those locations, and we are serving upwards of 4,000 meals a day. And that is a huge increase from pre-pandemic where we were serving 650 meals a day. So there have been a lot of factors that have played into that. Food insecurity has gone up. Inflation has created a demand for people to use their funds on other things. They're all looking for ways to make sure they can make ends meet. And that means they're coming to us for food and groceries.
650 to 4,000 from pre-pandemic is a huge, it hasn't ever leveled off. Is it continuing to climb?
That's a great question. There are more partners in the community who would love to use our service. We have one mobile unit, what looks like a food truck, but it's a mobile dining room that's taking meals out. That's on the road several times a day. It comes back to our central kitchen. What is a challenge for us is that there are more folks in the community that would like our services, but because of constraints at our central kitchen where the food is all produced and the way that we use the donated food and use such fresh food, we're not able to meet the demand. We've got partners like Head Start programs in the community that would love for Loaves and Fishes to provide the meals to them. We're unable to meet that need because of our constraints at our central kitchen. We are going to be embarking on purchasing a new central kitchen, and there'll be more information about that to come. We are hoping that we can accomplish that as a community so that we can meet the demand.
What is the demand? Where are the gaps, which I know you guys have been working hard at mapping?
We have 260 different distribution sites throughout the county through our agency partners. We recognize that there are some cities and places that might not have distribution sites. Jeanette is part of the Food Security Collaborative with the Food Bank and other food security nonprofits working to find out where those gaps are. We are seeing the gap within CalFresh outreach. While we have individuals doing CalFresh outreach, we're recognizing that there are individuals who could qualify for CalFresh. The new word right now is obviously CalFresh, old word being food stamps and EBT. There are individuals who are eligible but are not taking advantage of them because our outreach team didn't get to that certain place or area. We're trying to find those gaps. I think that food security map, I'm sure Jeanette can touch more on it because I'm not specifically working on it. That food map, that heat map, you're really looking to see what demographics, what cities, what places are we not reaching through our distributions. and trying to figure out those issues. Jeanette, if you want to touch a little bit on that.
It's pretty exciting. The five partners that are part of the Food Security Collaborative that receive funding through Impact 100 East Bay provided us with a grant award to create this heat map. We've got all of the five agencies' information now into the map, and we are working on analyzing it. The beauty of what that's going to show is where maybe we're overlapping services, where there's going to be a gap. We've also overlaid demographics and census data so that we can find out, oh, this is a very large Asian population. And with the pantries and the food distribution in that area, serving the food that an Asian population would like and utilize, right? Because it's only if you're providing food that is not culturally appropriate, people may not use it. It would go to waste essentially. So, what's the good of it? Really defining that and getting granular on this heat map throughout the county is going to be instrumental. Hopefully, we'll be able to move some of our distributions around at the food bank as well as some of the pantries and provide the type of food that the community would like to use and eat and enjoy.
We're talking about multiple organizations that sometimes
Mhm.
compete with each other, but have similar missions coming together and partnering on identifying where there's duplicate services, where they're missing services, and how can they best serve the community together. Use data, which everybody keeps talking about the hordes of data that are out there. How can technology help us sort through that? I think that's just a good example of that work. Do you want to give any of your partners a shout out?
It's Loaves and Fishes of Contra Costa, Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano, St. Vincent de Paul of Contra Costa County, White Pony Express, and Meals on Wheels, Diablo regions. We're all doing similar work. None of us actually compete because we all have a niche. We work really closely with the Food Bank and White Pony Express. That's where a lot of our donated food comes from. St. Vincent de Paul works with them as well, but they have pantries and their pantries, they're not, no one else in the county is providing a hot meal. Meals on Wheels delivers meals to seniors at their homes. Everyone's got a little niche in this whole, ecosystem, which is great. If we all work in silos, then nobody really we can't help the community as well as we can now that we're collaborating with that information and that data. It's a great partnership. We've been working individually as agencies, but now working as a full collaborative. We're just going to cover a lot of ground, and it's really exciting.
Let's talk about where to get the food from, right? There's the capital campaigns, there's raising money, but where does the food come from? I knew the food bank is a source for its partners. How do you work with restaurants, supermarkets, individuals? Educate us about that.
A lot of our food is actually purchased. The food bank, through our donations, is able to go and purchase foods, whether that be from grocery stores, the USD. The donated food that comes to us is typically some of it is from the USDA. And then, of course, we have like food drives and things like that we do from the community, but the bulk is purchased. If you're donating to the food bank, and fun fact, 97 cents to every dollar that you donate goes directly to food distribution and goes directly back. So that money that you're donating is going for the food bank to purchase food. And then what we do is from there, we have our agencies that are able to purchase food from us, or we're able to donate food. It depends on the relationship, the distribution site, and those types of things. But we also get some funding from the federal government. TFAP, the emergency, I think it's the Emergency Food Assistance Program. There's so many acronyms within food security, I'll just say. And so within that, we're able to get donated food from the USDA for our distributions. The food bank, a lot of people think, oh, we're just giving out food that was donated to us, but we use our monetary value to purchase food for the community.
Then, as a partner agency of the food bank, we do get some donated food as well as purchase food at a discounted price. It all depends on what they're able to use their buying power to get. And so we are purchasing food as well as getting donated food from the food bank. We have our partner, White Pony Express, our food rescue organization, providing donated food that we're distributing primarily in our food pantries through the food bank and Feeding America, the national program. We have local grocers that are part of that program, and they are recovering food that may not, maybe it's produce that doesn't look as appealing, but it's perfectly fine. Grocery stores are all about appearance. And so if it's not this shiny, perfect apple, they might pull it and that's a perfectly good apple. They'll donate that to us. So through that program, we are picking up at local grocers to pick up food. We have a local partnership with a farm Coco San Sustainable Farm, and she primarily grows strictly for loaves and fishes. We're getting farm fresh produce that is going into our meals. What is beautiful about what Loaves and Fishes does, and when I say a hot, nutritious meal, I really do mean it because we are taking food that is donated as well as we're purchasing maybe a protein or something from the food bank or other sources to put in that nutritious meal. But we're getting so much great, we're taking whatever is fresh and available, right? And putting that directly into that hot entree and that meal and either the veg side or the fruit side. That is how Loaves and Fishes keeps our costs down. We have a very small, out of a $3 million annual operating budget, only about 80,000 is money that we're spending on food. It's because we utilize a lot of that donated food so well, and we use the farm fresh produce. So that's how we work.
And if I
That's
can
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if I could speak to that too, we're really proud to say that at the food bank, 60% of what we distribute to the community is fresh produce, proteins, or dairy. And so just to Jeanette's point as well, we wanna make sure that we're not just feeding our community, but nourishing our community as well. We take pride in food as medicine and making sure that someone needs a nutritious meal. Students need a nutritious meal to give back to society and function as a normal person. We understand that's critical. I also wanted to touch on one point as well. We also do local food purchasing. We'll oftentimes get grants from the federal government that's specific for local food purchasing. So we really focus on in Solano County, looking at how to partner with local farms, BIPOC farms, to use that local food purchasing money. You're contributing to the local economy. At the same time, you're also feeding people who might not be able to afford a meal on their own. There's a couple different ways that we do get our food.
I really like that there's 2 messages. One, how much fresh and nourishing food there is. That's one of the great things about California is we have a lot of that close by. The grocery stores aren't wasting those perfectly good apples or an egg that is usable, right? And I know that was a concern of a lot of people. So this is good that they're finding a way to partner with organizations around so it doesn't go to waste. Let's talk about the government's role in filling the food bank with money. There's money that comes in. You talked about USDA, there's state money that comes in. Talk to us about how that whole system works currently.
There is a thing called the Farm Bill that really impacts what we do here at the food banks. The Farm Bill is a piece of legislation that really deals with food bank funding, agricultural funding. It sets the funding for 5 years. The last Farm Bill did expire in 2023, and Congress has since been trying to negotiate a new Farm Bill to avoid a government shutdown. The government has been passing continuing resolutions or continuing the last Farm Bill, which we're not super upset about because that Farm Bill was actually pretty supportive of our nutrition assistance programs as well as food bank funding. However, during the negotiations right now, what we're seeing specifically on the House side of the government is a lot of cuts to nutrition programs. Idea, what they're trying to move is the 30.5 billion cut across the nation that would happen for SNAP, which is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Think of it as modern day food stamps or EBT. What that means is if that was to happen, we would have a lot more people coming to our distributions. On the other side of that as well, what's also included in the Farm Bill is not just the nutrition programs, but also TFAP. It's storage and distribution and funding for food banks to purchase food, but also to store food. Because obviously, the food bank, what we are is we store the food. You can't come and get the food here. We have those at our distribution sites. But if we're feeding that many people, we have to have a fridge to hold that 60% of fresh produce. What's really the operational part? They're also proposing a huge cut to TFAP in this Farm Bill on the House side. We're meeting with our members of Congress. We're going to DC from March 3rd through the 5th to advocate with people on the Hill, let our representatives know what these proposed cuts would mean for our community. When the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is being threatened and food bank funding is being threatened, it really means where are people going to get their food? If they can't get it through benefits and they can't get it from the food bank, what does that mean for our people? And yeah, it's definitely something worrisome, but we're really advocating on the federal level with our electeds. And we're fortunate that our electeds here in Contra Costa County are very supportive of a farm bill that protects our community. It's just having them talk with their colleagues on the other side of the aisle and say, hey, this is really what it would look like for our people.
Let's talk a little bit about that without getting political. The Republicans are in control. now, you have only Democratic members of Congress representing Alameda, Contra Costa, and Solano. How are you reaching out to those other Republicans within the state? So have you looked
Yeah,
at doing that?
that's a great question. There's different districts that dictate who your elected official is. We try not to overstep outside of our service area because there's food banks who represent these different areas. They can advocate on their behalf. A lot of the times, members of Congress will only meet with people who are within their district. However, we have a California Association of Food Banks that represents all of California. And we have Feed in America, which is the mother of all food banks, supporting food banks across the nation. They meet with those others, the other people on the other side of the aisle who might not support a strong farm bill that strengthens and protects SNAP and these other programs. So while our food bank can't directly meet with those individuals proposing these harsh cuts, there are people on the state and federal level who represent all the food banks who do that on our behalf. And I will say that while I didn't mention that our electeds are supportive, it's still very important that we keep food at the top of mind. Even though if we're going into a meeting, we know they're going to agree with us. If the food banks aren't advocating for food insecurity, no one is. So we have to make sure that we're there at the table and that they don't forget about us and they don't forget about what this food insecurity really looks like in their districts.
That's important. What are some of the unintended consequences of these costs? You're talking about 60% of your food and operations funding comes through these federal programs in this farm bill, or
I think it's 16% of our budget comes from government funding. 60% is fresh proteins, dairies.
okay,
Um, yeah, and but
16%
16,
federal related funding to
which
this.
might not seem like a lot, but it is a lot. And so we do rely on these grants and funding that support specific distributions, right? There's certain distributions that are out there that are just specific to TFAP. If that funding's cut, what happens to those distributions? We have to find different ways to fund those because there are ones that are out in the community that are tied to specific grants that are tied to specific funding. Yeah, so that's definitely a point that we're focusing on right now.
I can just add what's a little frightening is what Haley has said when you think about the federal funding going away, right? And it's 16% for her. For an organization like ours, it's 5%. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it makes a huge impact. The benefits are cut for individuals, and our funding is cut. Where are people going to get food? How are people going to get fed? Many people come to Loaves and Fishes where this is their only meal for the day. If we take away, you have to think about how are people going to get fed? It is a very frightening situation for many of us in nonprofits as we watch what's happening and waiting for the government to finalize their budget for the year and really define what it is they're going to be supporting, what basic and safety net services are they covering.
And just to put some math behind it, if you're doing 4,000 meals a day, let's say it's 5%, that is 200 meals a day of
Yeah. So
Mhm.
200, yeah.
that, if I did my math correctly on the fly there. And
I'll
then
trust you.
and then 200,000 roughly from the food bank, I think it was more at 16%, you're talking 30,000, 35,000 people impacted, right? I know it's spread out, there's other sources,
Right.
but
And the reality is no one should go hungry, right? Even if our number was smaller of the funding we're getting from the government, it's still going to impact someone's life. And we truly believe that everyone should have the right to eat. It's a human right to eat. And what I will say about the cuts, the proposed cuts to SNAP, I think there's a misconception that people abuse SNAP, right? That people abuse these benefits. But what a lot of people don't realize, and the numbers show us that individuals who are on benefits are working individuals, right? They're people who are contributing to society. They're working, they're students, they're children. And hunger doesn't look one way. And I think we know that, right? Jeanette works with the houseless population, but we have individuals who work with the senior population, Meals on Wheels. And the reason why there's such a niche with all these different organizations is because hunger looks so many different ways. It's not one individual, it's not one race, it's not one gender or one age. It's really important to recognize that SNAP is our first line of defense against hunger. It is super impactful for a lot of individuals and it helps people put food on the table. The misconception that people are abusing the system and don't want to work and all these things that are out there are just truly, they're just not true if you look at the data.
let's talk about CalFresh and the role the state of California plays in helping the food insecurity.
Right now, the governor did just propose his budget on January 10th. And so May will come, May 14th, we have the May revise, and then he'll sign his final budget in June. But we've really been advocating for the minimum allotment to be higher. It's great that we live in California because we have all these farms, but one thing that's frustrating is that SNAP benefits are set on a federal level. California has a higher cost of living than, say, Illinois, right? It can be frustrating that the person who works the same amount of hours who's living in Illinois is going to get the same amount of benefits for you. And so what we've been trying to do is advocate for a higher minimum allotment. Right now, the CalFresh minimum allotment in California is 20. We've been advocating with, of course, our state Senate and our assembly and the governor's office to try to raise that to $100. And we know even then that's not a lot in California, but it's definitely better than 23. And just ensuring that our school meals for all is funded as well. We're the first state in the nation to introduce school meals for all. So we're very proud for that. That means every student going to school will get a free lunch. I remember when I was in school, I had to show my free and reduced lunch card, right? You don't have to do that anymore. So students are able to just get a free hot lunch. And a lot of times that's their only meal. But definitely just ensuring that these programs are being supported by the governor. We've been pretty fortunate that a lot of our bills do get passed, but last year was a huge deficit year. So we were just making sure that our programs were being maintained rather than making big asks on the state level.
For clarification there, $23 a
It's a month,
month that
a month.
somebody gets for food.
Yes, I know. $23 a
Yeah.
month, not a lot. Maybe you can buy a gallon of milk and maybe not right now eggs.
Haley and I are part of a group holding some listening sessions in the
Mhm.
county to better understand to what our community members are facing and challenges in receiving those CalFresh benefits. We're holding our second of 3 listening sessions next week, and we've been hearing a lot of good information from folks and the challenges and what is working and what's not working so that we can advocate and get together and hopefully talk to our county officials who can make adjustments at the state level so that we can work our way to helping the community get better benefits here.
I want to also put this into another perspective for people listening when we talk about the Fed setting a rate that applies to everywhere in that cost of living here. One thing I've talked to a couple of congressmen about is like mileage reimbursement. For those of you who were on the road all the time, you get the same mileage reimbursement under IRS standards as somebody living in Louisiana who is paying probably
Yes.
$2.50 a gallon less than you are. That is a substantial difference that you are cut out in that mileage reimbursement, and it's the same thing we're saying in the food. And it's the federal government pays their employees that live in California more. There's different pay scales for geographies. We're advocating here for the food numbers to match that
Yeah.
national relationship.
Mhm. And just to make it clear that the eligibility requirements are set on the federal level. Nowadays in California, you need $100,000 a year to pay for your basic needs and to survive. The baseline to qualify for benefits is less than $40,000. You can be food insecure in California at $60,000 or $80,000 and still be food insecure. But those are baseline eligibility on the federal level.
At Loaves and Fishes, because we don't have any requirements and our doors are open to anyone, we do see a variety. Hunger doesn't have one face. We get a lot of seniors who come in or veterans because families may come just once or twice a month to supplement. They're not coming in every day, but they are utilizing our services for the groceries for a variety of reasons because it is so challenging in this area to make a living wage, and to survive the cost of living in the Contra Costa County housing and what inflation's done to everything else.
I'm running some quick math. If you make $21 an hour, which I think is the fast food industry minimum wage, and you work 40 hours a week at 52 weeks a year, you're making $43,680 a year. Minimum wage is actually less than that for a lot of other jobs and industries, whether it's admin, janitors, housekeepers at hotels. I'm just showing comparison so people understand how many people are food insecure in this case.
Mhm. Absolutely. And again, that shows that those individuals who are working and keeping our society functioning, right? Those are essential jobs. People who are working at our grocery stores, who are working at our gas, whatever it may be, working 40 hours a week, getting paid minimum wage, and still are struggling to eat. And again, that's just to reiterate my point that the individuals who are utilizing benefits or going to the food bank are people who are contributing to our society who just are struggling to meet their basic needs.
Insecure means you don't know where your next meal may come from, and 1 in 4 in Contra Costa County are food insecure. That is a staggering number to think about when you're in a room or looking at your neighborhood and you think 1 in 4 of us could be, not sure where their next meal comes from. Shouldn't be happening in this state, in this county, in this country.
You mentioned the county. We've talked about federal and state. We've talked about the county working together with you on a number of projects. Can you talk a little bit more about what is the Contra Costa Solano Alamedas? What are their roles as county organizations in the food security space?
I think that it's interesting because a lot of what I mentioned is state and federal regulations, right, around our nutrition programs, around food bank funding. For the county to recognize what Jeanette just said, that 1 in 4 individuals in Contra Costa County are food insecure, the county has an obligation to address that issue. And so, what we have been doing, and I know Jeanette has been in many meetings advocating for different funding, whether it be Measure X funding or different areas. But also just making sure that individuals who are applying for CalFresh are getting calls back from EHSD and are making sure that they have a good experience with trying to apply for benefits because at the county level, you have to have that's where you have your interview, right, to see if you qualify for CalFresh. The county plays a critical role in many ways, but I think that it's really important to just recognize that they are the first people who they talk to about their benefits and to see, what that looks like. Jeanette mentioned listening sessions for the residents in Contra Costa County to understand what issues are they facing when it comes to CalFresh at the county level? What administrative issues are they coming across? Are they experiencing long wait times on the phone? Are they not getting calls back? Why are they missing their interviews for their benefits? We want to gather this data so that we can bring it back to the county and really figure out how we can work together to streamline those processes for our residents.
And just to touch on what Haley said, they are the ones who are responsible for a lot of what's happening. The board of supervisors are very receptive. Many of them have listened to us as we talk about food insecurity in the county. They have allocated funds for Measure X towards food security work. They've done a great job. I do want them to also, there's more work to be done, right? There's still, if there's this many people that are food insecure, then we've got more work to do with the listening sessions, like what we're saying in terms of taking that data back to them. We want them to streamline things. We want people to have an easier time getting those benefits. What's the use of the benefits if people aren't able to access them?
Yep.
I think we've made some good progress, but there's more to be done. We just have to keep sharing our information, voicing our concerns, and letting our voices be heard. We're working on that.
And I think we understand too that food insecurity isn't the only issue that this county is facing. Going to those Measure X meetings, and we're fortunate that the Board of Supervisors allocated funding to food insecurity, making sure that food security is top of mind with our Board of Supervisors and those stakeholders in the county.
I would encourage community members to listen. I know not everyone can go and sit at a board of supervisor meeting because they go very long, but they are televised or virtual. So you can hear. I think it's really important that the community understands what our board of supervisors are spending their hardworking money that they're spending in the community, what they're spending that money on and where it's going and how effective they think that is. I think a lot of people are unaware. Often I mention Measure X to a community member and they have no idea what that was or
Mhm.
is, right? It's 10-year sales tax that they voted on in 2020. I've really only been doing this type of advocacy work for a few years now, just learning. It wasn't part of my job, but it's something that I've had to take on because of the situation we face in this community and the work I do at Lives and Fishes. I would encourage people to listen to what your elected officials on the local level are doing and how things are working in your communities. You might want to have your voice heard and you can come and have your 2 minutes in front of the board of supervisors and share with them what's happening and what you think about that.
Wow, that was a great message. Jeanette, you guys are going to go on to a capital campaign starting shortly. You mentioned it for the kitchen at your central location. Tell us a little bit more about what that campaign is and how do people participate?
This is a little premature, but I appreciate the opportunity, Jared. We have identified a building in Antioch that would provide us with a larger space for our central kitchen, which is where all the 4,000 meals are produced and then trucked to our local dining rooms and put on the mobile unit and distributed into the community. We will be embarking on a capital campaign to fund that building, to remodel the space, to put in a new kitchen. We are at capacity. And I talked about how we use so much fresh food and that our volunteers are prepping for the next day's meal. We only have so much refrigeration to store that in order to produce the next meals because we operate differently. If you imagine if we were a different type of our organization and just opening up a can of soup or canned food and just we could operate 24/7, right? Because it's just we could get a truck to deliver an order like a restaurant of canned food or food and we cook it and send it out. But that's not our operation. That's not how we keep to a very low cost of $2.83 per meal. That's what it costs us to produce with everything that goes into that nutritious meals. I will have more information, but any donation towards Loaves and Fishes and in several months, we'll be telling people more about what that kitchen looks like, what goes into it, and we will be raising funds for that. But right now we are in the quiet phase of it, but we are going to be embarking on that. And that's the only way we're going to be able to continue to serve the community and meet the demand of more community members or more partner agencies, more nonprofits and other like Head Start who serve 0 to 5. I'm hearing that there's a county kitchen that is going to be shut down. They're looking for partner. They're going to put it out to an RFP and they're going to need somebody to produce the meals for their 0 to 5 program. Loaves and Fishes is only able to respond to things like that if we had a bigger space.
Wow. And Loaves and Fishes also has a workforce development program in the culinary space. You want to?
Yes, we do. We do 3 cohorts a year. The Culinary Arts Training Program is such a great program. We take students from all walks of life. Some folks are underemployed, currently in the culinary field, or having a challenge trying to find a job and they're interested in the culinary field. We do 12 weeks. We train them in the basic skills to work in a commercial kitchen. They learn knife skills, they learn how to do the mother sauces, and then we give them training on how to have a good resume, how to interview. We have mock interviews and try to place them in jobs in the community. It's been a really wonderful program. It's wonderful to see these folks. They come in and really grow in that 12 weeks. They've gained confidence. They just love what they're doing. And it's just a transformation for people. That is a wonderful program that we have. And our current cohort is out of our Walnut Creek dining room at Trinity Center. Then it'll come back to the Martinez dining room later in March. It's a wonderful program for
So
anyone, free for anyone who
can I just attend the class about the training with knives?
knife skills. I should be doing that too.
If it includes juggling too, that would be great. Do you want to leave us with any final thoughts? Any place people can get more information with you? Haley, do you want to?
Our website is a great place to get more information, foodbanks.org. You can donate there, you can sign up to volunteer, and also you can sign up to advocate with us. We have a 6-week long advocacy training program that we do host every year. The applications are closed now because we're inviting our new cohort in this spring. But look out in September when our applications open. But essentially, we take individuals with lived experience of food insecurity and hunger and train them to empower them to advocate on the state and federal level. Just look out for that. And also this is our 50th anniversary this year. We have our Nourish Gala coming up on April 26th that you can buy tickets for on our website, which is going to be a great celebration. It's a huge milestone for us. 50 years of being there for the community. So we would love to celebrate with you all.
That's terrific. For Loaves and Fishes, you can go to loavesfishescc.org, which is our website. You can find out lots of information. You can see our mobile unit. You can see where those stops are, all of our dining room locations. Make a donation. You can learn about our culinary. And then just at the food bank, we do have an annual gala. Ours is on March 29th, and it's Rock Out Hunger. And it will be disco themed this year to we always have great themed based on our overall theme. It should be fun to do disco this year, but we appreciate the community support because we wouldn't be here for over 42 years in the community, serving the community if it wasn't for all the folks who donate and volunteer for us. We have 100 plus volunteers a week, and it's important that the community comes together to help people in need.
Do you guys take children volunteers, school age kids?
We need 12 or
Right.
older with an adult present because we're dealing with food and it could be hot. It's hot because we're doing hot.
Yeah.
Kids are a little younger, aren't they,
Mhm.
Jared?
My kids don't fit for that, but we have done Girl Scouts at, the food bank before.
Food
Yes,
bank.
we do allow children as long as they're supervised by an adult. They can come and sort the food and bag up the fruits. It's a fun experience.
Great. Thank you for both being here, from the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano counties and Loaves and Fishes. I appreciate, you both taking the time to join me.
Thank you.
Wait, don't leave yet. Hit subscribe. Make sure you get the weekly updates. We have a new episode every Wednesday for stuff happening in the East Bay. In the meantime, follow me on LinkedIn, Jared Ash, or check out our firm where we have a weekly newsletter and blog at Capstone Government Affairs on LinkedIn. Thanks for joining us today on the Capstone Conversation.